Hey, Forrest here. Nothing like getting paid. And with ICCU's mobile app, I can deposit checks or accept Zelle payments so the money hits my account fast. I just wish there was an app for mowing the rest of these lawns.
It's the fall kickoff sale at Lithia Ford of Boise. It's the best time to trade in and trade up to a new Ford truck or SUV with the room to haul your payload or playload. Visit Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho.
Bronco Nation News is presented by RowPaint.com, Idaho Central Credit Union, Taco Bell, by Lithia Ford, The Blue and Orange Store, Western Collective, by Jackson's, Snake River Pool and Spa, Transportation Compliance Service, Bauscher Real Estate, Ridley's Family Markets, by Circa Las Vegas, Lean Feast, and by Timberstone Golf Course. This is Bronco Nation News Live. The best interviews, the most informed opinions, the latest breaking news, all from the top Boise State insiders. Bronco Nation News Live from BroncoNationNews.com is presented by RowPaint.com, the official paint and coatings company of Boise State Athletics. All Bronco Nation news broadcasts come from the Western Collective Studios. Head down to Western Collective's locations in Garden City or downtown Boise to try some of their delicious beers, including the Horseshoe Golden Ale, the first beer to support an NIL collective. Now, here's four-time NSMA Idaho Sports Writer of the Year, BJ Rains, with another edition of Bronco Nation News Live.
It is a Victory Monday. It is Oregon week for the Boise State football team. A ton to talk about, and we appreciate you joining us here on Bronco Nation News. We're in the Western Collective studios. Hope you enjoyed that watch party down at Western Collective. If you didn't make it out, you missed out, and hopefully you'll head down there Saturday for the Oregon game and have some of that Horseshoe Golden Ale. But we've got Mike Prater, Sports Radio, The Ticket, KTIK 95.3 FM, also our columnist at Bronco Nation News. We're going to talk about his column, his thoughts. And Mike, I know there's plenty of storylines around this team, win or lose, but when they win a game like that on the road, season opener, first time in 4 years, they've been 1-0. And, all week we get to look forward to the Oregon game. It's fun times right now for Bronco Nation. Oh, looks like Mike's a little bit delayed there. We may have to reset this again. Mike, I may need you to leave the broadcast and come back in if you can. We'll see. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
if Mike's
I don't know if you can hear me, but I might be having some
Mike's having
internet
some
issues.
Yeah, Mike's having some Wi-Fi issues. I'm going to go ahead and take Mike out of the stage for just a second here and see if he can reset his Wi-Fi connection. Maybe Mike, dive out of the show and then come back in if you can. We will see if we can bring him back in and come back in for his Wi-Fi issues right now. But we got a ton of notes to get to, a ton of things to get to. It's Monday. It's Labor Day, so Mike's at home. I'm at home. We're heading down for the Boise State press conferences today. It'll be Spencer Danielson, Dirk Cutter, Eric Chinander. A ton to talk to Eric Chinander about on the defensive side. So looking forward to talking to Eric Chinander, and obviously, some work they got to clean up on defense. There was a lot of good. There was also a lot not so good in terms of Boise State's defense. They did have 4 sacks. They did force 4 fumbles, the most in a game since 2006. There were some positives. Andrew Simpson, 4 tackles, 2 forced fumbles, and a sack. But then you factor in some of the negatives. 461 yards allowed, 322 passing yards, 5.4 yards allowed per play, 12 for 19 on third down, 7 for 7 in the red zone. They won the time of possession. So, Eric Chenander, plenty of questions coming his way today about that defense. So we'll be talking to Eric and seeing if they can fix some of this in a week before the Oregon game, because, man, I know that Oregon only put up 24 points, but if you watch that game, it's in the yards they put up and the performance they had, they just kind of stubbed their toe in the red zone a little bit, and they should have had a lot more than 24 points. They were moving the ball pretty easily on Idaho. So that's certainly the defense is certainly going to have to be better for Boise State to be able to have a chance to hang with Oregon, at least on the defensive side of the ball. So we'll get to the defense. There's obviously plenty that needs to be improved on defense, but man, offensively, where do you start? Ashton Jeanty, what he did, Maddux Madsen, I thought was did good enough, was fine, was solid. Wasn't the player of the game, but didn't need to be. I thought he was very solid. Sire Gaines, with what he did offensively as well, 110 rushing yards, 44 receiving yards, 154 all-purpose yards. I think Jay Tuss had the stat. Boise State, the only team in the country to have two players with 150 yards from scrimmage in week one in Jeanty and Gaines. So that's going to be fun to watch Sire Gaines moving forward. Latrell Caples, I thought, had a nice game, 5 catches, 81 yards. And Cam Camper and Chris Marshall combined for 6 catches and well over 100 yards. I thought Camper looked nice, and Chris Marshall caught both his targets as well. So I thought both transfer wide receivers certainly did some nice things. And again, the 56 points, the most in a game since 2019 against Hawaii, the 651 yards, the most in a game since 2018 when they had 800 against UConn. So again, you're putting up a lot of points and a lot of yards, and this is not against some FBS school. This isn't Kansas playing Lindenwood or Missouri playing Murray State or some of the games we saw this weekend. This was a road game against a Sun Belt team that went to a bowl game last year, and you put up 56 points and 651 yards. That certainly was impressive in terms of what they were able to do offensively. So we're going to hopefully get Mike Prater back in here shortly. If he just joined us, he was having some Wi-Fi issues with his internet. But we'll get Mike Prater back in here, and we'll try to see what we can do in terms of getting him back on the show. But again, there was also, so we had some good, we had some bad. There was also kind of just some question marks. Prince Strawn, 0 targets. I mean, he was out there plenty, and I think it was just the way the game plan went. Just the balls went to other receivers, those plays. I mean, you have to throw it to the open guy, or you have to throw it to the guy that the play is for. So, Prince, no targets. That's certainly something that's obvious, and that we saw no targets, but that's a little curious, I guess, what was going on with Prince Strawn. I think if anybody would have taken that on their bingo card or bet that over under in Vegas, 0 targets for Prince Strawn, you probably would have been in a pretty good position to make some money. But I'm not too concerned with that. He was out there, he played a lot. The plays just didn't go his way, so I don't really see anything there. I mean, you had other guys step up and make plays, and I think that's just the way it was. I think every game it's going to be a different guy. And you know what? Prince Strawn's probably going to go have 4 or 5 catches in the next game against Oregon. So Austin Bolt did not have a catch, only had 2 targets. May have had a catch, that one that was knocked out for the incomplete pass, but that's a play Austin Bolt has to reel in there and hang on to. But a nice job by the DB knocking it out. But you're talking about 2 of your starting wide receivers, Prince Strawn and Austin Bolt, combining for 0 catches on 2 targets. Someone's asking if they surpassed Strawn, and I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I think every game it's going to be somebody different. In that game, certainly Camper and Marshall, again, 6 catches for over 100 yards between the 2 of them. And then you had Bolt and Prince Strawn with 0 catches between the 2 of them. So that certainly is something that you're going to want to look at and say what's happening there. But I just think it was the way the game went. And I think next game it could be Prince and Bolt. I'm not worried about Prince or Bolt, Prince Strawn, Austin Bolt. I'm not worried about either of those guys. I don't think it was anything more than the game plan that for those guys went towards their way. We're going to see if we can try again with Mike Prater. Do you have us, Mike?
I think so. I got the hardwire going now, so I don't have the professional Wi-Fi that you have. So we hardwired things up, and we're good to go.
I think we are good. We were talking about the good, the bad, and kind of the puzzling from that game. A lot of what was talked about in your column. We were talking, I guess we'll start where I was just talking about. I said I'm not concerned about Prince Strawn and Austin Bolt having 0 catches because I think it's just going to be game to game. I thought Prince Strawn was out there on a lot. The plays he was out there for, they just threw the ball the other way. I mean, he's healthy. He's out there. I just think that that's what this offense is going to be. Would I have taken the under, 0.5 targets for Prince Strawn? No. I mean, officially he finished with 0 targets. Austin Bolt only had 2 targets, had that one catch he dropped at the 5-yard line. But you had you had Cam Camper and Chris Marshall combining for 6 catches for over 100 yards. I still think Bolt and Prince are fine. Somebody asked if they've been supplanted by those two. I don't think they have yet. I just think that's going to be this offense. But Bolt or Prince Strawn, a little surprising, no catches, but I'm not concerned about it yet. What about you?
No, I'm not concerned about that at all. As a matter of fact, I think that's the exact storyline we talked about this offseason, especially in fall camp when the wide receiver room started to develop 7 deep, and sometimes they even go 8 deep, depending on who you talk to and which 8th guy you want to throw in there. There's no way, especially with Ashton Jeanty doing what he's doing, that you can go 8 deep and satisfy all those mouths. So, no, I think you're 1,000% right on. And again, it's a story that everybody's getting fed. Everybody's going to be a superstar at one point during this season. It's just going to have to take some turns because what we saw on Saturday is going to happen again all season long, if you ask me.
Matt Lauder, 2 catches for 13 yards. You may have taken the over on that going into the game, but he did some nice blocking and some things. But again, I still think he'll be more of a factor in the passing game than he was. Breezy Dubar, again, I know a lot of folks are freaking out about that. I mean, as you know, Mike, there's some stuff we can say and some stuff we can't say in terms of practice and things. But all I'll say about Breezy Dubar is he'll be a factor this season. I'm just not sure he was physically ready to be a factor yesterday, if that's fair to say, or Saturday.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Yeah, I think that's fair to say. And it's, I'm not sure how much of a factor he's going to be if Sire Gaines continues to run like that. Breezy Dubar is going to continue to be RB3, and you have to wonder about where his head's spinning right now after what he saw. Now, I saw Breezy Dubar go on social media right after the game and give a lot of praise to Sire Gaines. That's a pretty good sign right there. But 3rd string running back in all of college football, BJ.
Yeah, and again, there was we're not supposed to say too much about injuries and things like that, but let's just say that Breezy Dubar was not out there for every rep of every practice during fall camp. Watch some of the videos, see who was out there making plays, and I think they even said after the first scrimmage that Breezy Dubar didn't play in the first scrimmage, so it's publicly out there that he didn't play in the first scrimmage. So he's working his way back, and I think that Breezy Dubar will be a factor here moving forward. Couple other guys I want to mention on the positive side before we dive into some of the obvious storylines. I'd mentioned some of them, but Ben Ford had a nice catch, as somebody brought up. Cam Bates, a freshman, had a couple nice plays as well. You're coming in and out, Mike, so hopefully you can hear me okay. But they had some true freshmen. You mentioned Gaines, 154 all-purpose yards. We mentioned what Cameron Bates did. I know Ford is a young guy, not a freshman, but was able to, a guy that hasn't played a whole lot or made a whole lot of production, to come in with his first career catch as well. So they got some nice contributions. That Ben Ford play was a huge 3rd down, I believe, to move the sticks. They got some contributions from some younger guys. And as you said, I think it is going to this is going to be one of those years where, aside from Jeanty, it's going to kind of be by committee for a lot of the rest of the offensive production.
Yeah, I think the one concern that I would have, though, is you definitely got to make sure Prince Strawn gets the football. And I'm not, the fact that I guarantee you when we see Dirk Cutter today at the press conference, that's going to be one of his questions: is how can you get Prince Strawn the football? And when Ashton Jeanty takes over a football game like that, all bets are off the table. But they're going to work to get him the football some more. And he's too talented. He's too big of a part of this offense. And I would imagine that'll be an emphasis going into Oregon, is to get Prince Strawn some more catches and some more targets, because that can't happen all season long. No way.
No, agree with that. All right, let's. Do you want to go the good of the offense first, or do you want to start on the defense first? You're a half full guy today. How'd Mike Prater wake up feeling today? Which side do you want to touch on first?
Let's go half full today, because
we're dealing with some other Wi-Fi issues with Mike Prater here. We'll see if we can get Mike Prater back here in a second. Mike Prater is dealing with some Wi-Fi issues. I apologize for that, guys. Hopefully we can get him logged back here shortly. But let's see here. Yeah, Mike just left. He's going to come back in, I think. So, all right. Somebody's asking about Mason Randolph on the offensive line. Yeah, Mason Randolph did go down with an injury, it looked like. We'll see what happens and what they are willing to say about that today and who's going to step in. But that certainly is a concern. Your starting center potentially being out. That definitely is a concern for Boise State to lose anybody. I mean, they avoided the serious injury. It looked like at all the skill positions and things, but to have a starting center go out, certainly not ideal. So we'll see if he's able to come back and play in this game. But I believe that, let's see, somebody's saying Jason Steele. What's Brock saying here? I'm missing a comment here. Who steps in for Mason Randolph on the O-line? Yeah, he did go out with an injury late in the game. So we'll have to track that and see today what they're willing to say. I thought TK, came in and played pretty well, subbing in with Ben Dooley. They moved some guys around a little bit. I thought that there was some impressive parts to that. So, yeah, I mean, I think there were a lot of positives from this game. I really liked, again, somebody mentioned Camper again. Cam Camper, Chris Marshall, super impressive. I think Camper had, 4 for 99. I think you had, let's see here, 2 for 13 for Chris Marshall, but one of them moved the sticks and gave him a first down, and he caught both of his targets. So to get 6 catches for 112 yards out of Camper and Marshall, if you'd have told me before the game, I think you would have taken that 100 times out of 100 if you're a Boise State fan. So let's see. Did Gilbreth get into the game? You know what? I'm not sure on that. I apologize. Let's see. Mike's Wi-Fi is as good as ESPNU's signal. Yeah, that's pretty good. Let's see what else we got here. Dylan Gabriel, captain check down. I mean, Boise State's played him. That'll be one of the talks today. Did have, played him at UCF and did pretty well for a good chunk of the game against him. And then obviously in the second half there, things turned and they were not able to win that game. But they've, from a coaching staff perspective, a couple of these coaches have played against him. So we'll see. Mike Prater says he is rebooting and trying again. So we will try to get Mike Prater back here. He is rebooting his computer. I'm not sure what's going on with his Wi-Fi. Austin Bolt recovering the fumble was huge. Yes, Austin Bolt. That was a huge play in the game where Sire Gaines put it on the ground. Austin Bolt came in, recovered the fumble. That was absolutely a huge play, no doubt about it, in this game, because if Boise State doesn't get that fumble, certainly that's a situation where it could have gone downhill in a hurry. And you think about it, and I know Dayton Robinson had the comment on social media. Georgia Southern scored before half. Then Georgia Southern got the ball and scored after half. Boise State had those 4 plays, and then on 4th down, didn't get the 4th and 1, and then Georgia Southern scored again. It was 3 touchdowns for Georgia Southern, and Boise State only ran 4 offensive plays in a span of like an hour. And when you throw in halftime in there. So it was just a really weird swing there. The New England Patriots made that famous, scoring late in the second quarter and then getting the ball to start the second half. I always think you should defer, by the way. I mean, I don't know, maybe Saturday's different. You don't want to fall behind, but getting the ball to start the third quarter is so much better. And so I think you should always defer and try to get that first stop on D. And then if you do, you get the ball and you get the ball to start the third quarter. So I would always defer if I was a coach. I know some coaches like to get the lead and try to put the pressure on and go for it. But I think getting that ball to start the third quarter is a huge deal. I don't know if it's quite the advantage of like batting last in baseball, but I mean, it's an advantage to get the ball there to start the third quarter. And I think you should always defer to start the game, in my opinion. So that worked for Georgia Southern. They got the ball and they did win the toss, by the way. They I think Georgia Southern won the toss and then elected to defer. The pass defense, it wasn't great. They allowed 322 yards. Somebody's bringing that up, and you are correct. Yes, the pass defense was not great. 322. There was even some other, I hate to say it, but some other plays where guys were wide open. The quarterback just missed them. There was one that would have been a touchdown, I think, on a wheel route for the running back down the sideline. There was another one. The guy was wide open down the middle of the field, but there was pressure on the quarterback, so he couldn't get the throw off. So, I mean, there was a couple other plays where Georgia Southern could have had big gains through the air. Let's see. Go back and watch one of the videos. Spencer, before he enters the locker room, you can see Mason standing outside the locker room with a sling on his arm. I wasn't going to say it publicly, but since there's a video out there, I guess on social media, might have been my video that Mason Randolph was in a sling after the game. So we'll have to see what happens with that. Let's try again with Mike Prater. How we doing, Mike?
We're trying, buddy. We're trying. I apologize for being a distraction. And I need to
No
invest
worries.
in a better Wi-Fi system, apparently. It sounds like.
No worries. Well, while the signal's strong, you wrote about Maddux Madsen. Let's go to Maddux Madsen for a little bit. You wrote about him in your column. What did you make of Maddux Madsen and how he played?
I thought Maddux Madsen played great football. I mean, not great might be just a little bit strong, but Dirk Cutter put him in a position to handle it, and Dirk Cutter did a nice job, and I thought Maddux Madsen did an even better job. A 70% completion rate, a career high 288 yards. I know he had the one pick, and that's going to continue to be a problem. 3 of his 4 picks in his entire career have kind of been the same, short passes in the middle, and you can suspect that maybe vision and his height were an issue, but I thought he was fantastic. And I got no issues with that. If Malachi Nelson's playing that football game, he doesn't play that well, if you ask me. So, and the fact that people out there are calling Maddux Madsen a game manager, are you kidding me? Guy did a phenomenal job of taking care of business. It's the first time, and he's a sophomore. It's the first time that he's ever started and completed a game. He's a young quarterback, and I think he's only going to get better.
And again, Mike, I mean, I think right now, maybe not every game, but if you said in like 80% of the games this year, Maddux Madsen throws for 280 yards, a touchdown and an interception, and completes 71% of his passes. Like, I think you would take that 75 to 80% of the time, probably. You need that occasional big game to go win it for you. I get it. But more times than not, when your quarterback passes for 280 yards on 71 completion percentage and throws a touchdown and 1 pick, you're probably, with this running game, that's probably good enough to win a lot of games.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Dirk Cutter wants. So it doesn't matter if it's you, me, Malachi, Maddux, Mickey Mouse. It doesn't really matter. That's exactly what Dirk Cutter wants from this offense. So if you put Malachi Nelson into this offense, it's not going to change. It's 7 handoffs to Ashton Jeanty, a pass to Austin Bolt, and then rinse and repeat, right? So it's not going to be a different deal. So Maddux Madsen was clearly in charge of this offense. I thought the way he commanded this offense was perfectly fine. I thought his gamesmanship and his body language and all the intangibles that you want on a big season opener like that, I thought he handled it really, really well. Now, we all know that Oregon's going to be a lot different. I suspect he's not going to be as clean and smooth as he was against Georgia Southern. And here comes the haters, and here comes more of the quarterback competition conversation. And that's fine. Bring it on. We'll see what happens. But I think Maddux Madsen is off to a great start so far.
Yeah, and again, some folks were talking about it. The O-line deserves some credit. I want to talk about them, but Mason Randolph was seen in some post-game video wearing a sling on his arm, the starting center, and so that could change some things. Probably not going to get anything specific unless it's season-ending today from Spencer Danielson. But that O-line, and I went back and rewatched the game, Mike. I mean, obviously, Ashton Jeanty deserves a ton of credit. He broke a lot of tackles. Same for Sire Gaines, but some of those runs, I mean, there was literally 20 feet wide for Ashton Jeanty to run through on multiple runs. And there was, he's 10, 15 yards downfield before he's even getting touched. I mean, this offensive line, I think we all thought would be fine. I don't think we thought it would be the most dominant O-line in the Mountain West and on the West Coast and all this. We thought it would be, 4 returning starters that all had some time. That, solid group. You're bringing in, a new right tackle and Hall Schmidt, like you feel pretty good about it, but I don't know if we expected, and again, it's game 1. Maybe the D-line is just terrible on Georgia Southern, and we'll find out. Obviously, there's going to be bigger steps forward, this week going against that D-line on Oregon. But with that said, for one game, I thought the offensive line deserved a ton of credit. That was as good of a performance by the offensive line in terms of opening up some of those holes, protecting Maddux Madsen. I don't think he got hit one time all game. That's one of the better offensive line performances I can remember in some time here.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It was a very dominant performance and steady and consistent. I don't even remember them having a weak link in this football game. Maddux Madsen was not sacked in this game. And the combination, and I'm not sure this is being talked about enough, the combination of what Maddux Madsen does in terms of decision-making and getting rid of the football. I hate to throw Hank Bachmeier under the bus, but remember Hank Bachmeier disease? Didn't have that third eye in the back of his head, held onto the football too long, couldn't make a decision. Maddux Madsen is so fast and so efficient and so quick with his decision-making, and he just goes out and does it. So the fact that if the offensive line can continue to block like this, and Maddux Madsen just makes that decision in a half a second, and he gets rid of the ball so stinking fast, that's going to be a brutal, beautiful combination for Boise State football this year, and I thought it really worked against Georgia Southern.
John is asking why we're not critiquing the lousy special teams to go along with the usual putrid secondary. Did they fair catch every kickoff and punt, give up multiple 2-point conversions, at least one long kickoff return? What I'll say about this, Mike, is like, you're not going to return a kick when there's a guy about to like crush into you. Like, it's not that they would have gladly returned some of these punts if they had a chance, but they were short fields, or the punter was punting them to where there's literally 3 guys standing next to Latrell Caples when he catches the ball. Like, that's just not smart football to try to return that and get blown up. I mean, there were not very many returnable punts to begin with. And on the kick return, same thing. When they're kicking it 5 yards into the end zone, you're not going to return those. So I don't think that's necessarily, we heard that Stacey Collins was going to be aggressive, and they are, but the opportunity has to be there to be aggressive. I didn't see a whole lot of that there. I do agree the one long kickoff return where Jonah Dalmas had to make the tackle to save maybe a touchdown there. That was a huge return, which started the comeback actually for Georgia Southern. They ended up scoring a touchdown with the short field there. So that certainly wasn't good, but only one punt from James Ferguson Reynolds, no field goal attempts for Jonah Dalmas. I mean, the special teams weren't amazing, but I'm not going to say they were terrible in that game. They didn't really even do much.
Yeah, they weren't a detriment, and they weren't the rock star. They don't need it to be a rock star, and I agree. I think the special teams is going to be a work in progress. They experimented with like 6, 7, 8 different returners in fall camp, and some of the guys, they use guys we didn't even see on the depth chart in the return game. So I think they're still tinkering a lot with the return game. Yeah, you need to shore that stuff up in terms of, you can't let Jonah Dalmas lead this team in tackles. That was, although he was pretty damn good about that tackle, it was special and perfect form. So I'm not worried about the special teams. If you want to sit here and beat up the defense, I don't know if I want to come too strong. The word embarrassing comes to mind, because it probably wasn't. Yeah, it was embarrassing at times. This defense really, really struggled. And it needed to be a lot better than that. And I understand, if I'm a Boise State fan, the angst that I feel about this defense, if Boise State loses football games because of that defense, that's not going to be a good look, BJ.
Let's keep talking about the defense here in just a second, but I want to thank a couple of our sponsors. Again, hope you're at the watch party. We had 40-something folks sign up for the BNN YouTube channel, Mike, at over 40, I believe it was, at the watch party. I got a couple videos from there. Every seat was taken in the bar. It was an awesome atmosphere. We're doing it again on Saturday for the Oregon game. Come on out. Kickoff is at 8 o'clock. You get $3 Horseshoe Gold Nails. There's going to be discounted burgers. A great fun atmosphere. They'll have the sound on, the video on, assuming Peacock doesn't have the problems that ESPNU did. But you will get your opportunity to hang out with other BSU fans and watch the game. And again, 10% of all proceeds go to the Horseshoe Collective to help the student athletes at Boise State. So you want to have a fun Saturday night out downtown, come watch the Oregon game with some friends and a good atmosphere. And Boise State fans, come down to Bar National inside the Western proper, House of Western in downtown Boise on Idaho Street. We'll see you at Bar National, 8 o'clock kickoff on Saturday for Boise State and Oregon. Okay, roepaint.com, our title sponsor, roepaint.com, all your painting needs, your concrete coatings, your garage, your back patio, your basement, your interior, exterior residential paintings. They can do commercial, industrial stuff as well. Check them out. Roe Painting, the best in the business. Our title sponsor, roepaint.com. Next Wednesday, during the bye week, Idaho Central Credit Union presents the Tyson Degenhardt Show. We'll be back with another episode next week during the bye week. Idaho Central Credit Union. Don't miss it. ICCU.com. There's a branch pretty much in every corner of the Treasure Valley, but the easiest is the online mobile e-branch banking on your smartphone, on your app. Highly recommend making the switch. You may like your banking experience. You'll like it better when you switch to Idaho Central Credit Union. Matt Bauscher, Bauscher Real Estate, #1 ranked realtor in the Treasure Valley. Check him out, Matt Bauscher, BauscherRealEstate.com. 243-8222. The best in the business. No home is too big or small. Matt and his team are ready to help you out. Again, BauscherRealEstate.com. Ridley's Family Markets, shopridleys.com. We're going to talk about Boise State's defensive struggles here in just a second. 13 locations across the state of Idaho. Check them out, shopridleys.com. And again, download that Skip app. Get savings up to 40% off at the checkout line, shopridleys.com. Mike, Snake River Pool and Spa, Patio and Game, the spateam.com. The weather's starting to going to start here to start cooling down. Perfect time to think about getting that spa for the back patio. The Raines family is loving our purchase from Snake River Pool and Spa. Our spa is awesome, loving it. We had a chance to enjoy it last night after coming back after a long weekend out of town. So check it out, thespateam.com. Snake River Pool and Spa locations in Twin Falls, Boise, Meridian, Nampa. They've been around since 1978. And if you're not looking for a spa, you want to spruce up that game room, they got the pool tables and all that good stuff as well for the game room. So check them out, Snake River Pool and Spa. All right, Mike Prater, we talked about the defense. The defense obviously struggled in this game. I mentioned some of the stats early. You had some positives. I mean, 4 sacks, 4 forced fumbles for the first time in since 2006. They forced 4 fumbles in a game defensively. They just only picked one of them up, I believe. So they got the ball on the ground 4 times. They had 4 sacks. Andrew Simpson, 4 tackles, 2 forced fumbles, and a sack himself. So there were some small encouraging things. And if they pick up, 1 or 2 more of those fumbles, maybe things are different. But they didn't. And they gave up 461 yards. They gave up 322 passing yards. 12 for 19 on third down, 7 for 7 in the red zone. They lost the time of possession. They gave up over 5 yards per play. Overall, defensively, and as I said before you came on, Mike, even some long passes where guys were wide open where they just didn't make the pass. It could have been even worse in the secondary on some of those passes. There was a wheel route. The running back would have walked into the end zone, but he got overthrown by like 5 yards. There was another pass down at the other end of the field to the left. Overall, probably not the start you were looking for, but I will say we went into this game saying that the pass defense, Georgia Southern's top 15 in the country the last 2 years in terms of passing offense. You knew this was going to be a test. Boise State didn't fare too well in it.
No, and the bottom line is, and that's a decent and fair point in terms of what you talked about, the sacks and the forced fumbles, although you definitely need to jump on a couple of those, and zero interceptions again. How many times did we see that last week or last year? This defense, I don't know where to go. I mean, I certainly didn't expect them to give up as many points as they did. That's ridiculous. I don't know. I'm not a smart enough X's and O's football guy to sit here and tell you if it's the scheme, if it's the players, if it was the execution. I would assume on Saturday it was a little bit of all the above. Eric Chenander is going to make us really smart today when we go out and talk to him at his press conference. I do worry about the physicality of this defense. Dudes, having big-time dudes. And Ahmed Hassanin's a dude and developed himself into a dude. Jaden Virgin Morgan, after the camp that he had, which is kind of a quiet camp, had a pretty good game. So I'm not going to rip on him too much, but just the physicality of this defense and the back half of this defense in terms of just being out of place, the schemes, the execution of it all. Irby kind of getting himself caught a couple of different times. So I'm very, very disappointed in the back half of that defense. I'm very disappointed in the entire defense period. So I don't know where they go from here. Oregon, did they really kind of hide their playbook against Idaho, or did Idaho play well? It'd be embarrassing if Boise State doesn't play as well as Idaho did in that football game. And for me, it all starts with defense.
Yeah, and I will say that if you look at some of the stats, I mean, Oregon moved the ball pretty easily. They just had stubbed their toe in the red zone a little bit, and I mean, but Dylan Gabriel had a phenomenal game. Like I think that you look at just the box score, you're like, how did Oregon only score 24 points? So I do think that some fortunate things went Idaho's way, I guess. But overall, yeah, I mean, you look at the scoreboard, and the scoreboard is what it is. Yeah, there are some trolls, by the way, infiltrating the chat. I don't know if they're actually Boise State fans or what, but we got somebody saying, isn't it sad we're going to be 7-5 this year? Let's see what else we got. There's a lot of different folks enjoying their Monday morning, I guess, wanting to come out for a Monday morning troll, Mike Prater. But overall, I mean, again, you can say what you want about the defense struggling. Yes, they did. You just have to, I guess, bank on Eric Chenander and Spencer Danielson correcting some of these problems. I mean, you can say, well, they should have done it in the offseason. It's obviously still a problem. I get that. That is a very fair point and criticism. But again, all you can do at this point is hope that they figure some of this out. But I'll tell you what, probably won't figure it out by Saturday. I mean, you look at what they're doing against Oregon. I mean, it's very likely after the Oregon game, we're probably talking about, and this secondary really is a problem, blah, blah, blah. And then you have a bye week and some winnable games at home where maybe the narrative changes all of a sudden. So obviously a tough 2-week stretch going on the road, 2 good offenses, or at least passing offenses to start it out. Dylan Gabriel, I mean, he's going to be in that Heisman race if Oregon's third and he's the quarterback, ranked third, and he's the quarterback, and he's got the hype of all that for all these years. So it's going to be a tough task on Saturday. But back to this game, And what we saw, Mike, I mean, if you can get 371 rushing yards, and again, you're not going to get, 267 out of Jeanty every game. By the way, I know you were talking about Cedric Minter on your show, and he had the 77-yard touchdown also in his record-breaking game. Do you know what he did the next game after he rushed for 261?
I don't. What did he do?
He rushed for 208. He backed it right back up with another 200-yard performance in the very next game. He had 29 carries for 208 yards at Montana State on September 30th, the very next week. So if you could get 200 yards out of Jeanty in the Oregon game, you'd probably be feeling pretty good about your chances.
Holy cow, that would be awesome. So that's a pretty good standard. And at this point, I'm not doubting Ashton Jeanty on anything. So we'll let him kind of see how his season plays out. But not that anybody was doubting Ashton Jeanty, but I don't think anybody expected what we saw on Saturday night.
What should we expect, though? I mean, what is now considered just a normal game for Ashton Jeanty moving forward here? Because when you set the bar that high, 267 and 6 touchdowns in the first game, like if he doesn't get to at least 150, 160 rushing yards in every game, you're going to be like, oh, Jeanty didn't play that well. He's going to rush for 110 yards, and you're going to go, yeah, well, only rushed for 110 yards. I mean, it's crazy the standard he has now set. Of course, he's not going to rush for 267 and 6 every game. But the bar is so high now for Ashton Jeanty. Where is that bar? What is now a average standard game we should be expecting of Ashton Jeanty?
I got an exact number for you, and it's 134. If you take 134 yards times 13 games, which we assume Boise State has 13 games left, add on what he did on Saturday night, that's your 2,000 yards right there. So for me, it's 134 yards, and I think that's really realistic. There's going to be some games where he may go for 175. There may be some games where he goes for 99. Ashton Jeanty is not going to rush for 100 yards in 14 consecutive football games. But if he can average 134 over these next 13, that's kind of the barometer for me. So I think I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's obviously doable, and it's very much in play with Ashton Jeanty, knock on wood, as long as he stays healthy. But 134 yards, that's very doable for Ashton Jeanty. For me, that's the standard moving forward.
Dayton Robinson says he thinks the rushing yards will come down, but the receiving numbers will go up. They didn't use him in the passing game. That'll change.
They didn't have to. I mean, and they'll be. I'd rather get the ball to Prince Strawn and some of these other wide receivers than Ashton Jeanty. Ashton Jeanty is a serious weapon, and he still needs 3 to 5 targets in a game, and they're going to get him those swing passes out of the backfield. That's the perfect safe pass for Maddux Madsen. Maddux Madsen on the move. Maddux Madsen rolling right. Maddux Madsen on those outside screen passes. Get him away from those 5 big offensive linemen and the defensive linemen behind him. Give him some vision. It's not like he's a mobile quarterback, but if he can get out of the pocket by a couple of feet and create some vision and some passing lanes, those are perfect ones for Louder, for Jeanty, and the wide receivers. But I don't need to see Ashton Jeanty catching a ton of balls, but 134, that's definitely my magic number.
Hey, we got 240 of you watching on YouTube right now. So if you can go ahead and hit that like button in the corner of the screen, help out our broadcast here in the analytics and things. And if you're not a subscriber already and you just found our channel, please hit that subscribe button to the Bronco Nation News YouTube channel. It's free. It's easy. It literally takes a second to click subscribe, and then you'll be notified, or you can click the notifications tab as well and be notified when we go live with our broadcast. So we do this every morning at 9 a.m. We do live pre- and post-game shows. We talk Boise State football, Mountain West football, and everything else going on in the world of the Mountain West and sports. All right, 2 other quick topics I want to hit on, Mike, in terms of the Mountain West. Some scores that happened over the weekend, but also some news with the Mountain West and 2 of those schools. We'll do that in the final segment of the show here, but I do want to thank a couple more of our sponsors. Lithia Ford of Boise, the fall kickoff sale. Check them out. Next Friday, we will be over at Bora High School for a live broadcast. They're doing an event to raise money for Bora High School where you can test drive some vehicles over there from 11 to 6. I believe Austin Bolt, some of the players will be over there as well. So we'll give you more information, but look into that. If you test drive a vehicle, even if you don't buy one, no strings attached, test drive a vehicle, and $20 goes to Bora High School. So come hang out and help out a local high school here on next Friday, Lithia Ford, Boise. Taco Bell, you looking for a job? Taco Bell is hiring. Great promotional opportunities, free food while you work, and half your wages the next day after your shift. Get more information, apply for a job at TacoBellWorks.com, and the food is pretty darn good as well. Check them out for that next meal with the family. It's cheap. It's delicious. Highly recommend checking out a Treasure Valley Taco Bell store. Speaking of jobs, Transportation Compliance Services hiring. TCS. Give them a shout if you're looking to get into the trucking industry. It's a local company here helping folks all over the world. Transportation Compliance Service can get you the permits and paperwork and things you need to get out there towing that first load in no time. Check them out. Transportation Compliance Service, transcomservice.com. Get that gear for the Oregon game on Saturday. If you're heading over there, the Blue and Orange Store, theblueandorangestore.com. The new jerseys, caps, bumper stickers, car flags, sweatshirts, all your Boise State gear, the biggest and best selection at the best prices is at the Blue and Orange Store. You can order online, theblueandorangestore.com, or you can go into the Boise Town Square Mall, the second floor there next to Pro Image. Got a lot of choices, a lot of grocery stores, a lot of places selling Boise State gear. But support the sponsors, support Travis Hawks, who's been around since the beginning, 2006, the Blue and Orange Store, theblueandorangestore.com. They had the 4 sacks, Mike Prater, but none from Ahmed Hassanin. So unfortunately, not getting the 91-cent coffee or soda today. But every Monday after a game week, if Ahmed gets a sack, you get a 91-cent coffee or fountain drink. And same for Breezy Dubar. He didn't get in there on Saturday, but on a Tuesday, after Breezy Dubar gets a touchdown, you get the Breezy bundle, a hot dog and a soda for $1 at Jackson's. Make sure you check that out. And want to give a quick shout out to Lean Feast. Saw the order my wife made over the weekend. When this show's over, Mike Prater, I think I'm going to have a little shrimp and broccoli and cauliflower rice and get ready for the press conference here. So check them out, leanfeastmeridian.com, leanfeastmeridian.com. They got 10,000 plus combinations, and it's all healthy. It's fresh. They got every diet for you, and they now deliver everywhere in the Treasure Valley. So there's no excuse to not eat healthy with our friends at Lean Feast. All right, Mike Prater, I do quickly want to get into the Mountain West scoreboard and see if you have any takeaways. New Mexico played well, covered the spread, but lost a close one to Montana State you had Nevada, SMU, obviously Nevada. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong weekend. I'm at week 0. My bad. I want to talk about where am I at here? Sorry, I'm looking backwards. Other than Texas losing badly, there are a lot of interesting scores, Mike Prater. I know Fresno State lost to Michigan, but that game was close for a good chunk of the game. I think they were only down 10-3 at halftime at Michigan. You had New Mexico playing well for a half, and again, then kind of fell apart a little bit in the second half. But New Mexico hung for a while with Arizona. Air Force gets a win. UNLV 27-7 beating Houston, I thought was very notable. Nevada, Jeff Choate, good for them, getting a win over Troy. Hawaii ends up losing to UCLA, but that was a very close game. Hawaii was winning going into the fourth quarter and then falls to UCLA 16-13. San Diego State with a big win over Texas A&M Commerce. Utah State gets a win. The only team that I thought just looked terrible, I guess aside from Colorado State, was Wyoming. I did not see that coming, losing 48-7 at Arizona State. But I know there's no moral victories, Mike, but overall, another, I thought, pretty decent showing for the Mountain West. And regardless of the scores, I think some of these bottom feeders in the league are going to put up a little more of a fight than some might have thought going into the season.
Yeah, who knew that Nevada would be a surprise story that it is? And I know the competition is certainly one thing, and we're going to get a really good barometer this weekend when they host Georgia Southern, who comes all the way out to Reno for a football game this weekend. But Nevada has certainly been a surprise for me. The Mountain West, I know they're playing up. They're playing a tough schedule. They've played 15 non-conference games so far. They're 8-7. That's probably not good enough for me. The 1-6 record against Power 5 or Power 4 opponents now, that's kind of predictable. We knew that that's going to happen. UNLV's victory over Houston. I'd like to see outside of the Power 5 numbers, some of those other games. 8-7 at this point in a non-conference record is not good for the Mountain West, but they are playing some tough opponents. They're keeping some of these games really, really close and really, really tight. It would have been nice if Hawaii could have completed that game against UCLA, because I don't think UCLA is any good at all this year. So that's kind of a lost opportunity. And there were some lost opportunities last week as well, but not quite as tough of a schedule this weekend. I know Boise State's at Oregon, Utah State's at USC, and I think that those are the only Power 4 opponents on the schedule this year. San Jose State and Air Force kick off the conference season, but there's a lot of winnable games, and maybe the Mountain West can bump up that non-conference record this weekend.
Yeah, no doubt about it. UNLV is hosting Utah Tech. Wyoming is hosting Idaho. You have Air Force and San Jose State, as you said, a conference game. Colorado State hosting Northern Colorado. Nevada is hosting Georgia Southern. That'll be an interesting game. Fresno State hosting Sac State. San Diego State's got Oregon State coming to town. That'll be a little interesting game. And then, as you said, Utah State at USC. But speaking of Oregon State, speaking of Washington State, speaking of the Pac-12, Pac-2 in the Mountain West, Mike Prater, we saw John Canzano's report. They are not, extending that deal. They did not reach an agreement by the deadline. I I immediately go to thinking, okay, this means the Pac-2 would rather bring these teams back to their conference and do their own thing. I think you may think a little differently, but just what's your general takeaways when you heard they did not extend the scheduling agreement?
Yeah, I think the gap, and John Canzano, if you go back and read his column out of Oregon, said the two sides are too far apart. I don't know if they're too far apart on this one specific issue. The 2025 scheduling agreement is exactly what we're talking about here, or just in general. I have a hard time believing that they're that far apart in general. Gloria Nevarez and Teresa Gould, the Pac-2 commissioner, are close working mates, and I would imagine that they could try to figure something out. But in terms of the 2025 scheduling agreement, I think the Pac-2 is just being greedy at this point. They don't want to commit to anything because they want to go off and pursue the Big 12. They want to go off and pursue the ACC. Nothing is going to happen in the next year. There's going to be some massive conference realignment starting in 2026 in the 28 window, somewhere in there, but nothing's going to happen in 2025. So I'm not quite sure what the Pac-2 is doing right now. They should have extended this deal, if you ask me, because I'm not sure what other kind of options they have. Maybe your line of thinking is the way to go in terms of, maybe they want to go off and pilfer off 6 of the Mountain West teams, but that's going to be very complicated. That's going to be very expensive. And I don't think Gloria Nevarez will allow that to happen right now.
I mean, I haven't looked at their schedules for next year, but they got 6 games each from the Mountain West this year. I mean, that's half their schedule they would have to fill next year that they don't have currently. So, I mean, yes, it's done a little differently now. You can schedule some games closer, but I mean, not a lot of, I'm not sure, 12 teams or whatever have openings for next year on their schedule that they could try to find games. And so aside from them playing each other 3 or 4 times, I mean, yeah, I just wonder where they're going to get a full 12-game schedule at this point, this close to the 2025 season. So you've got to think they have something else up their sleeve, in my opinion. It's like, why aren't they, trying to, what, like you said, what other options do they have? I don't know. I think they're going to have trouble finding a full schedule next year if they're just planning to do their own thing.
Oh, 100%. Now, just because yesterday was the deadline to complete the 2025 scheduling agreement doesn't mean that they can't come back to the table. That basically ends the extension. There was the 2024 agreement with the possibility of an extension, and the extension deadline was yesterday. They could come back tomorrow or next week or next month, and time really isn't that big of a deal. I mean, it kind of is in terms of recruiting. If you're Washington State and Oregon State and you're recruiting right now for the future, and your recruits are saying, you don't have a conference, you don't even have a schedule, what's going on? And if there's a red flag there, I may be going somewhere else if I'm a recruit. So there's definitely an issue there for the recruiting side, but the time-wise isn't that big of a deal. And I suspect maybe in a couple of weeks, maybe a month or so, they can get back to the table and say, okay, we've kind of exhausted all options. Instead of extending the deal, we'll just come up with a new 1-year deal. That's certainly on the table. And I would suspect that that's the odds-on favorite of what's going to happen, but I'm very intrigued by your scenario as well.
And part of it is, Mike, that in that agreement that they had, if they would have taken all of the, I'm trying to find the exact document, and I can't find it right now. You may know it. Here it is. Let's see if the Mountain West put out the official deal tills of it, and they didn't. But I know in the nitty gritty of the agreement, if the Pac-2 would have taken every Mountain West school with them to just basically form a 14-team league, there would not be penalties. But if they would pick and choose which ones they wanted, there was massive financial implications to the league to do that. And so I just wonder that now that this agreement is over, I don't remember if there was a timeline on how far that part of the agreement, went on. If they said, hey, we'll do this agreement with you, but for the next 5 years, you can't take our teams, or if it's only during the year that this agreement was going on. So I wonder if that's now null and void, so to speak, and you just have the standard exit fees by these schools that wanted to try to leave early. But they don't have a TV agreement after 2026? How many years are left on the Mountain West TV agreement? One more? 2 more?
No, they got at least 3 more years, I believe. They got this year and 2 more after this, I believe, if I remember right.
Okay.
Maybe it's just 2 more years. I know. I'd have to look at the numbers right here. I think it's through 2026. So you're right. You're right. It's the 24, 25, 20. Yeah, they got 2 more years. So this year and next year. And Gloria Nevarez has said that they have to open up a negotiating television window here anytime now.
Yeah, 18 months, I believe, they get the first right. So I guess, I just wonder how that plays into it, because if you don't have an agreement, then you don't necessarily have that's why the Pac-12 broke up. They never had the TV agreement, so there were no exit fees to leave the league. And so I wonder how that would play into all this from a standpoint. But I just wonder what's going on here with the Pac-2, because they've got all this kind of money from the tournaments and all that for another year. Financially, they're probably okay next year, but they got to find 6 more teams. I don't know. And I still don't know what ultimately happens. If they want to rebuild the conference, can they convince, a Memphis, a South Florida, and try to make some super conference? Do they just take the Mountain West schools and say, that's it? Do they beg and take a way less deal and try to get added into another power conference? I don't know. It was $14 million, I believe, that they were paying Mike Prater to do this 6-game schedule. So they got 12 games. I know that was kind of divided back amongst the schools. So, Boise State's basically getting a bye game to host, Oregon State on Black Friday. They're getting paid to host them on the Blue. It was a sweet financial deal for the Mountain West, and it made a lot of sense. And it's why they went down to 7 conference games. It was a big, huge deal that they did this. I just wonder, what happens now moving forward. I do totally agree with you. If you had to be a betting man, they probably find a way to come to an agreement at some point, and the terms are just a little different. I think that's probably what happens, because, and again, maybe the the Mountain West knows, like, they have no other option. Maybe Gloria Nevarez is like, where are you going to go? Who are you going to play? How are you going to get a schedule? We're changing that $14 million to $24 million this year. Like, take it or leave it. I don't know what was going on there, but obviously it was a financial benefit for the Mountain West, and it worked out. It's given them some more quality, at least somewhat name recognition opponents in terms of a conference and taking off a conference game. But I don't think that. I think the Mountain West is just going to play a little hardball here, because they know that the Pac-2 doesn't have very many options at this point.
I would, and if I was Gloria, the gangster, and like we like to call her, I would play hardball too. And I think that they are. And I know that the Jeremiah Dickies of the world are a little frustrated by this sometimes with some of the details, some of the financial obligations. Boise State, the Mountain West, Gloria Nevarez, they have the leverage. And there are people out there who say we need to use that leverage. And maybe the Mountain West is using that leverage too much, and the Pac-2 doesn't like it. But we'll see how it all plays out. I think they'll come to an agreement, because I don't see any other options here. I certainly don't see like 6 teams leaving the Mountain West and going over to the Pac-2. The Pac-2 has always said, we want to keep things small, like an 8-team conference. That's what they want to build. But for 6 Mountain West teams to go over to the Pac-2, that would cost millions and millions and millions of dollars. And even if the Pac-2 has lots and lots of money stashed away based on the last 2 years, they don't want to play that game, BJ.
All right, final thing for you, Mike. We turn this back to current. It's Oregon week. Will be plenty of time to dissect what we saw on Saturday and make corrections for week 2. We will have the Spencer Danielson press conference live on Bronco Nation News at noon. So come on back at noon. We will live stream the Spencer Danielson, Eric Chenander, Dirk Cutter press conference. I listened to your whole post-game show. Thank you so much for getting that posted after the game that night. I know that's more work for you to stick around and post it, but you at least get one listener every night, because it's a tradition, especially on the road, to listen to the post-game show. And we had about an hour drive. I had an hour drive, solo back from Statesboro to the hotel in Savannah, 12:30 in the morning on a 2-lane road. And literally I hit play as I'm walking in my car after the game. And I bleep you not, Mike Prater, I'm pulling into the hotel parking lot as you guys sign off. It was perfect timing. And I enjoyed listening to the post-game show and getting the kind of the pulse of Bronco Nation in your show. But you kind of jokingly said it, but it was true. Like, don't really care about talking to Dirk Cutter this week. For once, all the questions are on Eric Chenander on the other side of the ball. And I know it was kind of tongue-in-cheek, but there is certainly more concern, more harder questions that have to be asked to Eric Chenander today than Dirk Cutter.
I definitely want to find out what he thinks happened with this defense and the issues. And Eric Chenander isn't talking a lot of specifics, so I'm not sure what kind of answers we're going to get. Dirk Cutter's going to stand up and say Maddux played great and Ashton Jeanty's a rock star. I kind of figured that part out on my own, but I need Eric Chenander to explain to me what happened on Saturday in Georgia, and hopefully we get some answers today, BJ.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Again, it'll be at noon. So final thing, Mike, I don't know if we'll talk to you again on this show before the Oregon game, but just this week, the hype, the excitement, Jeanty trying to build off what he did. A chance, I want a national audience, but it's on Peacock, which kind of sucks. But I mean, it is a national streaming service. Austin Stadium, Boise State has gone there and gotten a win before. They are 3-0 all time against Oregon. They opened at Circa, which your hat you got on there, Circa Sports, a 20-point underdog was the opening line. 3 touchdowns, essentially underdog on the road at the number 3 team in the country. Huge opportunity. You're kind of playing with house money as long as you don't lose by, 75-0 or whatever. But I mean, just overall, what's your take on this week and obviously a huge game on Saturday?
Crazy things happened in Georgia Southern. We certainly didn't expect Ashton Jeanty to do what he did. The 56 points. It was the highest scoring season opener in Boise State history. If you combine the 2 scores, for the first time a Boise State season opener has ever gone over 100 points with a combined score. We didn't expect or see any of that coming. So what's the unexpected that's coming at Oregon? Well, the only thing you can think of is that Boise State's going to win this football game. So I think there's a lot of intrigue. I think there's a lot of excitement. I'm going to inject the Vandal angle into it all week long because I love playing off that Vandal. If Boise State goes into Oregon and doesn't visually, the optics play as well as the Idaho Vandals did, and what if the Idaho Vandals go back to Wyoming and beat the Cowboys? And right now, based on what we saw last weekend, that's a possibility. So I love the juiciness of the college football headlines, especially after week 1. I love the accolades that Ashton Jeanty's getting, and I can't wait to see what he can do as he runs against the Oregon Ducks.
Andy Hill making a Spencer Danielson press conference reference here. He says, bring the energy today, BJ. We'll see if Spencer gets on us for having some. I'll be honest. It was a long day flying back yesterday. I'm trying to recharge the batteries as we speak. But I don't know if you saw this or not, Mike Prater. You mentioned the Circa Sports, one of our sponsors, Circa Resort and Casino. I did want to throw in that they just announced this morning they got their 10,000th entry in their Survivor contest, meaning they have hit the $10 million guarantee. And everybody that enters Survivor between now and the start of the NFL season on Thursday will get basically you're adding to the pot. So they have hit their 10,000 mark for the Circa Survivor, a $10 million prize on the line, and they're going to add to that pool. They've only got 4,200 entries in the Millions contest, and they put up $6 million for that contest. So right now it's called an overlay in gambling terms, where the casino is set to lose $1.7 million. I'm sure they'll get more entries in there, but if you're on the fence in terms of EV and kind of the percentage play, right now, there's, basically you've got a good chance to win some money. $6 million on the line, and they've got, only 4,000 entries in that tournament. So if you're in Las Vegas or can get to Las Vegas by Thursday and sign up, hope you do, for Kent Riddle. By the way, Kent Riddle and Brad Bedell, they both signed up for both contests while they were down in Vegas last weekend with me. So we're going to have stuff to talk about with Brad and Kent and the Draper family, Connor Johnstone, the Beavers. We had a lot of people sign up, like 10 entries related to Bronco Nation News. So we're going to have fun all season following the Survivor and the Circa contest. Hopefully win our Bronco Nation News family some money here. I think I said it last year. I'll say it again. If we win one of these contests, we'll comp everybody a free year. How generous of you.
Nice. I'm rooting for you, BJ. Make it happen.
We'll see what happens. Mike, appreciate your time today. At whatever you did to fix the Wi-Fi after the second time worked. So we were good strong there for the final part of the show. So appreciate you. We'll see you in 2 hours for Spencer Danielson at noon. Go read Mike Prater's column at BroncoNationNews.com. Go read my postgame story as well. Rewatch the postgame interviews, the postgame show, and then we'll see you live back here on the Bronco Nation News YouTube channel at noon for Spencer Danielson and the weekly press conference is getting you set for the Oregon game. Have a great day. Go support the sponsors. Our title sponsor, rope8.com. Our studio sponsored, Western Collective. We'll see you Saturday for the Oregon game watch party. But first, we'll see you at noon. Bronco Nation News live here at BroncoNationNews.com.